Welcome everybody, thanks for tuning in for another review from the 2023 EMTB Shootout presented by Fox Racing and Schwalbe Tires. Today we'll be reviewing the 2023.5 Specialized Turbo Levo Pro. So if you watched our e-bike shootout last year, you'll remember that the Specialized Turbo Levo took home some pretty impressive accolades and awards, and we were really excited to see what the slightly updated and newly spec'd model could do. Run us through the geo on our size large Turbo Levo.
Yeah, so the size large, or S4 as Specialized calls it, has a 477mm reach, 635mm stack, 442mm chainstay, 64.5 degree head tube angle, 76.2 degree effective seat tube angle, which is size specific and changes slightly throughout the range, and then a 27mm bottom bracket drop, which gives a 350mm bottom bracket height.
Something that we should probably talk about in the geo realm is that the Levo has probably the most adjustable geometry settings of any bike in the roundup this year. This is a 160mm front, 150mm rear mullet bike, but you can, with the headset cups, take it from 63.5 to 65.5, as well as adjust your chainstay length, and you've got the high, low, or short, long settings. So a lot of versatility, which is something that I think a lot of riders might enjoy depending on how much they travel and ride very different terrains. I also think that this bike, for most of our riders, felt really great in the nominal centered position and doesn't have to be tweaked or tuned if you don't want it to be. So moving on from geo, obviously this is the Specialized drive unit with a 700 watt-hour battery. Has their TCU in the top tube and a very sleek and stealthy remote. I think power, sound, noise, what do you think, Nick, compared to other bikes?
I think it's probably right in the middle. It's a little bit louder than maybe a Shimano motor, but not as loud as a Bosch motor.
Okay.
Yeah, and the power delivery is really, they've done really good things with their algorithm to not have too much torque at the front, so you're not looping out every time you're taking off on a steep hill. I think the power delivery is great, and it still supports you all the way through your range, all the way up to the top cadence you're gonna put in.
Yeah, and Robert, I think you were really applauding the low end grunt on this thing, right?
Definitely, yeah. When you get to like particularly steep pitches and perhaps your cadence isn't so high, it still keeps on giving you power, which some of the other motors start to drop off, especially for my weight.
Yeah, I feel like even down at like the 40 range cadence, like 30, 40, it's still giving you all 90 Newton meters.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and it's relative in the power displacement to other motors in the group.
Yeah, 90 Newton meters, sorry, instead of 85, which yeah, makes a slight difference, but you're not going to be pulling away crazy amount.
Right, it's not, I wouldn't say it's like Shimano and Bosch difference, but the way that you feel that power, like you said, and I think especially in those lower RPM moments, you can really feel that assistance. Also Specialized, like all the other drive units, does have an app, and you can take advantage of the micro tune on the fly here in the bar, where you can adjust the power increments from the preset modes, or you can get into the app and customize it even further if you'd like.
It's one thing I liked about the micro tune is I felt like on big days where you only have 700 watt hours and you're really thinking like, man, I'm gonna be stretching this thing to 40 miles, you can micro tune your adjustments down and really gain yourself another like 20-30% of battery life, which I really like.
Absolutely. So moving out of the climbing battery range discussion and into on-trail performance, Robert, what were the standouts for you on this bike? Obviously last year was your first time riding a Turbo Levo, and you're pretty new to e-bikes as a whole, and you loved the Levo last year.
Yeah.
Do you still love it?
Yeah, it still absolutely has its place in the market as a bike that does everything well and has very few things that it suffers with as drawbacks. And yeah, it pedals well, it goes down in a playful way, but still gives you stability to push pretty hard. I think it's still the good all-rounder that it was last year. Okay. And yeah, it's a sweet bike.
Nick?
I think, you heard what we said about last year's bike on how it just does everything well, like you said. It's a great all-arounder. I think with this suspension package, it just offers a little bit more stability, a little bit more comfort. You can tune it a little bit better. So maybe going along with that geometry adjustment, now you can really dial in the suspension at this level to get it exactly riding how you like.
Yeah, and this wasn't a bike that we really needed to do a lot of tuning. There are some bikes that we had to make multiple laps and really start from scratch after 2, 3, 4 runs where we're like, man, I know there's more in this bike and we have to really examine it. This bike was really easy to get up and going and be like, all right, it rips, let's go. Let's get into price, value, component spec on this bike. So what do you guys think about the new performance of the drivetrain?
I think the drivetrain, I like the way it shifts. It is very, you press the button, it happens.
Under power or not.
Under power or not, it will
crazy.
happen. It is very crisp. It's very positive. When you shift, you know you're going to get the next gear. The thing I don't like is the new shift pod. Okay. It sticks out a lot. It's kind of underneath. It just doesn't feel like you're ridden for 20 years on the same system. What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, for sure. It's you know, when you get onto the previous axis rocker shifter, you could bash your thumb in the position that you've always been used to, and you'd shift the gear. Here you end up having to fumble a little bit. The kind of landing area for your thumb is smaller than it used to be.
To me, it's way longer than it needs to be, and it's not ergonomically in the right place, and you can slide it on a track back and forth, and you can, you know, clock or rotate that shift pod or the controller, but you can't, it's only in one dimension, right, that you can go. And to me, I found like I was having a hard time reaching.
You really have to like reach under almost.
It was either like I couldn't get to the top button or it was a stretch to reach the bottom button. It was never like it was just really close and there. Again, I don't know anything about electronics or how to shove something in there, but I feel like they could have done better.
Well, thankfully you can still replace that with the old version, and it'll still work with that derailleur. The derailleur and the chain and the cassette are all better than they were previously. They just shift incredibly well under power. Whatever you're doing, it just goes into the gear that you want.
But that's probably outside of Specialized's control. This came with this package, and I gotta say the rest of the ergonomics on this bike are really good.
For sure.
But would you spend $13,000 to get that? Or would you maybe go back to the Pro model or the expert
model
that we had last year?
I think I'd stick with the expert model. After riding that and seeing how capable it is, and seeing that this, yes, while it offers a few more things, a little better shifting, a little better control in the suspension, it's not $2,000 better.
Okay.
I'd agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So absolutely, this is an improvement. It shifts amazingly.
Yes.
The claims are true. It's durable, it's robust, and it shifts very well. We don't love the pod, and as a whole, I think the next step down, the Expert, is probably the model that we would all buy. Of course, you do get some really nice stuff that you and astute riders and riders who like to tweak and tune will notice and appreciate. Any other standouts? Any other, like, I mean, I can't really think of any cons when it comes to this bike.
No.
Absolutely not. $13,000 is a huge amount of money. That is a solid con that means that I'm not going to be able to afford this bike unless I really tried. But apart from that, you get $13,000 worth of performance, I'd say. It's still a killer bike.
It's a great bike.
Oh my God.
Subscribe to the channel, ask any questions you might have down below, and thanks for watching. We'll see you in future videos.